Hey, everybody. I'm Angela, author of Poems from a Lost Soul and host of the Relatively Damaged podcast.
And I'm Carl Spyrides, author of Decide Your Destiny. And we're the destiny of your soul.
Of your soul. We're going to get it one of these days. He's also the custodian to the Decide Your Destiny movement. You know, he wrote the book, so he has to be the custodian of the movement, too.
That's how I threw you off there. we're going to get it. We're going to get it.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure we put that in there because I personally think that's kind of important. It is a movement. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing the show together is because of your movement. And I have a similar desire to love people into being the best of who they are. And I think that just goes together.
Yeah. Synchronicity. Definitely. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So last week we talked about a cosmic goal and asking for feedback.
I believe we have some, correct?
Do
From
we
someone
have
close
some?
to you?
Well, I don't know if she made a cosmic goal yet. I know that she did the homework the week before, though.
Okay.
And started noticing. So I don't know about the new week's homework, but the week before. So we are getting reports of things happening. Yes. People are doing the work. They are taking the steps, which I think is really important and beneficial. Now, I do have something to report. Now, I did start a weekly newsletter. So I want to say because of the time, we already had some stuff going on for the newsletters until I want to say mid-November. So mid-November, you will find out what my cosmic goal is and have the chance to give me feedback.
Awesome. I'm loving it. I can't wait. Mid-November.
I think I'm super excited. I asked, what am I doing well? What could I improve on? And what would you do if this were your cosmic goal?
Cool.
So I asked 3 questions, and all you have to do is reply to the email, and it will come right on over. So super exciting.
Oh wow! Okay, I'm excited for this. You're good with the tech, folks at home. The tech is Angela's forte. I'll say you're quite good with the tech.
It's all smoke and mirrors. I don't know what I'm doing.
Before we got on, just like, okay, I'm just going to press some buttons. Okay, here we go.
It's literally 2 buttons or three buttons. I could, with my finger, I could press 1, 2, 3. Done.
I love it. It should be like, all right, we're going to press some buttons.
Well, that could be dangerous in real life, right? Yes. Pressing buttons on purpose. Because I was just thinking of our topic being what do you do if you have a lost soul as a parent? And I think as a parent, I have also pressed the buttons of my children. So I don't know if in those moments they would have decided I was lost.
You must be in wrong territory here, pressing my buttons.
Well, they're kids. I was just thinking about that today because before I come do this, I try to, or I do work with kids, junior high age kids, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, to learn heart rhythm meditation and like that emotional regulation, and really teach them that they have that power. And I do this voluntarily. I don't get paid for it or anything like that. But sitting in this room of children with emotional dysregulation and then observing the teachers and the instructional assistants as they're trying to manage the room, I was having to work hard to stay regulated myself. And if the kids are that far dysregulated, it makes me wonder how dysregulated the parents might be,
Yeah. Well, that's the truth, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so hard. I was, because I was, of course, able to see where they could have done some things better in the classroom. Of course, I'm certain they probably saw places I could do things better too, the teachers and the instructional assistants. But I had I had to empathize with them and be like, "Yeah, I get it. If I were in a room all day with these dysregulated kids, what would I do and how would I find my way back?"
Yes. Yeah.
Like, wow, right?
You've got to build. You've got to. I think what we don't recognize is that a lot of resilience, a lot of I guess dealing with situations that are stressful, things like that. It's really skill development. It's different skills, and when you talk about that, it's like, you look at different sort of things. Maybe people that are in palliative care, or people that are helping out in all sorts of different sectors in life. I know a charity just down the road that helps out with, like it's a women's refuge shelter, and there's quite a few charities actually in Fremantle, and I think they're those people that are there day in day out. They're developing different skills, and I think, and that's a big thing. I've been learning a speech because I've got a speaking like event on Sunday, and I've been learning a speech. And like one of the ways you can learn a speech is by reading the first line, reading it 5 times, looking at it, okay, and then try and read it without looking at it, okay, and then do that 5 times, then go to the next line, and you're just stacking together, and then it's surprising like how much you can remember the speech. But then I find that I speak better when I'm not speaking from something that I've written, even though I've written it really well, I've worded it really well, and but if I can just somehow like have bullet points in my mind, or just kind of like speak ad lib, it just flows better. So that skill of speaking ad lib, I've had to do that in a pressured situation, and I think that has developed over time. So skills that just develop, they're still skills, and that's where we can
Mhm.
look at someone and go, wow, how can you deal with this? How can you handle this? How can you um, how can you have the strength for that, or the versatility or the ability for that, and you've got a huge set of skills, that lots of other people wouldn't have because of, different experiences. And that's where sometimes I look at, I went to a good school in Sydney, and and I've known lots of people like from all walks of life, but sometimes people that come from a super privileged life um, are at a super disadvantage, um, because they're so sheltered. They continue to shelter themselves throughout life, and they've got so much. It's weird. It's kind of like they've got so much pressure to make a wrong decision because so many right decisions have been made for them. And this is where you hear some of the kids that have come from a beautiful like background, everything's been sorted, and there's two directions for them. They either go wayward and they're like, well, I need to, which like young teenage males do a lot with mothers, is they go wayward because they're like, well, I need to, everything's too orderly around me. I need to, throw some chaos spice in here. I need to break out and have some, unpredictability and some change, and so it's kind of like they're going for it, but the wrong way. And then the other way is
Mhm.
that they just kind of shell in through that shell that they've had in their life. And I've seen it where I can go and do something or experiment or try it, or like put myself in that situation or do this and do that. And just recently going back to, to like seeing some of those friends and some of those people, and some of them doing very good in their life in different sort of ways, but just seeing the sheltered sort of existence, um, because of that kind of, well, that pressure of like, well, everything's been done right by me. I don't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to put a step wrong. But then they're so stressed out about making a wrong move that they don't end up making any right moves. And
Mm.
it's a different perspective. Like I think, I maybe it's a bit too. I could be maybe a bit too free flowing, or a bit too bombastic, or a bit too out there, or a bit too whatever it is. But I look at it. I'm a spiritual being. Currently with a physical sleeve that I've got on, um, but I've got all this ability within me, and a lot of it, yeah, I can see where I'm good, where I need to work on, but a lot of it's still to be discovered. And I know through putting myself in those discomforting situations or uncomfortable situations, or challenging myself, or you know, going with things that maybe, like, it seems like the harder way, but it seems like, no, this is like the right direction. You know, doing those things that are out of that kind of that cocoon, I know that that's going to help me grow and my spirit grow. So I'm not as
Yeah.
concerned about my physical, where, and I'm not saying I slash my body or whatever, but I'm just saying I'm not so concerned about all the physical things in the physical realm, where a lot of friends will be worried about embarrassment. You know, what would the parents say to me? They've done so much for me. How can I do that? Or, like, all those sorts of things, and
Mm.
it's an interesting, I guess, dynamic, because in our modern world, like, to be honest, lots of kids grow up with an incredible. Lots of kids grow up incredibly disadvantaged, and lots of kids grow up incredibly advantaged. But I think it would be short-sighted of us to suggest what's an advantage and what's a disadvantage. Sometimes an advantage can seem like an advantage, but it really is a disadvantage.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because maybe not having a lost soul as a parent could be, having someone who's doing well, who gets you what you need, meets your needs and wants, for lack of a better way to describe it. And but that doesn't allow for failure,
Yeah.
because the parent is already setting it up for success. And then what happens when you fail? There could be huge implications for that. Whereas maybe someone with a lost soul as a parent has failed many times over, but the parent just wasn't there to support them. And there could be a multitude of other situations, but I like that you're pointing out that, well, let's be careful about deciding that one is better than the other, because it might not be.
Mm. Yeah. I think we tend to be too. We can be too black and white in our view of what is privilege and what's not privilege. There's different layers to privilege. Like, definitely, like, have I been privileged? Yes. Have I not been privileged? Yes. Like, for everyone, and then you got to go out into the world and do what you will with your privilege or lack of privilege, and your privilege that could be, kind of holding you back, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
it's tricky
maybe
for parents.
it Yes.
I mean, I'm not one, but I can see.
I'm a parent. I will say yes,
Yes.
it's tricky.
Yeah.
I I think, though, maybe because the question that we asked was, what can you do if you have a lost soul as a parent? And I think both of us had parents that were lost on some level, and we paid a price. Uh, was it good? Was it bad? I don't know, but I'm here right now, and I have this incredible gift and knowledge, and you're here right now with your incredible gift and knowledge, trying to share that love and the steps to get to peace in your life, if that's what happened. So I think maybe what we're saying, maybe the steps would be the same, even if you had a parent that met your needs, and now you're out there floundering trying to figure out, who in the world am I?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think the steps are like, and it's the. I mentioned in the book, it's kind of like there's universal laws. There's things that are just true. Like, one of them I discuss is, uh, when you start putting outflow, in your universe, when you like, and I've had it happen so many times. I'll make a bunch of calls, or I'll do a bunch of drop-ins, or go to a bunch of, different, meet a bunch of people, or go and see, and all of a sudden you're putting this outflow in the universe, and then, in weird ways, people that haven't gotten back in touch with you for years pop up, and you get calls in out of the blue, and it's like, I believe it's a universal law where you're like pushing energy out, um,
Mm,
with goodwill and good intent, and then it flows back within with goodwill and good intent, in ways that aren't even connected, and it's just like a kind of magical. So I think, yeah, I think there's universal laws, that are true, whether you've come whatever background you come from. But yeah, it can be very tricky to navigate uh, if you're brought up by someone who's lost and not really grounded. And I'm definitely not saying that I preferred the years with my grandparents. Definitely where they were grounded, and I loved every moment of them, and I cherish them, and I'm so appreciative of them. Did I agree with them on every single topic? No. Did we always get along on the exact same page? No, but most of the time we did. And most of the time they were just there to kind of be a facilitator for my growth, for my, how do I work through this trauma and these challenges, and how do I kind of come out of this compressed, pressurized shell that I've surrounded myself with for protection. So
Mm.
I definitely think, I wouldn't say, oh, you've got to have a hard life to be successful, or not true. Um, I think you've just got to know what steps to take, like you said, you know.
Well, would it be? I think on some level, maybe it's a little bit like learning to trust life, that life's got your back, or the universe, or
Mm,
whatever you want to believe in, God, whatever. But that because at some point, there's going to be those situations where we're not feeling safe, we're panicky, or we're frustrated, or whatever, and if and then we're putting all that dysregulated energy out into the universe, which is calling more of that dysregulated energy back to us. If we believe
yeah.
that the other law is the law, we're going to put out good things, we're going to get back good energy. We're going to put out bad things, we're going to get back, such as the law of karma, right? Like, this is just
Yes.
how that works.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a matter of starting to feel safe. I think that a lot of kids that have lost souls as parents, if you will, just to stay more on that topic, but also the other kids too, like, that there might be a point in life, it's just with them it happens so early,
Mm,
the increased in dysregulating emotions and things like that, like, they don't get a chance as early on to build into what does it feel like to live in love, right? Like, when I say in love, I mean, like, to live with joy and peace and all of those beautiful feelings that and that child with the lost soul as a parent is going to be brought up, and they're stuck in the dysregulation, the frustration, the anger, the this, the that. And then what I've seen happen is you get these, I mean, I've seen it happen where someone will be feeling joy or peace, or they're all of a sudden that love feeling, and their body throws them into a panic because
mm,
it's a foreign feeling to them, because they're so used to those dysregulating chemicals and feelings that now it's it's foreign to feel good.
yeah. Yeah.
So
And
how
how
did you
sad
get
is
there?
that?
It sounds like from your grandparents, but
I mean, what you just dropped there, so isn't that sad? Like, um, I think that's also something kind of where the imposter syndrome comes in, and also things like, where we get in our own way a lot in our lives, and we can kind of disrupt the flow unnecessary. We can kind of mess things up, and I think that's something to be mindful. Like, for me, curious and interested in past lives, and what am I bringing into this one? What energy, what am I reoccurring into this one, and being wary of, well, like, am I messing up a good thing, or am I disrupting things that are good, like, unnecessarily? Because
Mm,
disruption's important, definitely. Disruption is important, in a lot of ways. If you're going to wake up every morning and just keep doing the same thing, like the same routine, every now and then you might need to disrupt your routine, just to actually light a fire of your life again. You need to
I
disrupt
am
your.
laughing because literally this morning I went diagonal brushing my teeth.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool.
Just, because I do this section and then I did this section and then I think I did this
Okay.
section and then, but it was on
You're
purpose.
organized. I don't even know what way I brush my teeth. That is.
Well, I was doing it on purpose because I usually go, I think, from here to here and then here to here, right? And I was
Yes.
like, well,
Yeah.
I'm really working on living in the surprising, I don't know world, this beautiful world of calling to me new experiences because I that's where things happen, and I want to stay open. Like I have that sign that you can't see right now. That's how will I be surprised today?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
and it'll be okay. So I mean, sometimes but I get your question, like, am I disrupting something in a bad way? I don't know that we could ever make a wrong choice.
Mm.
I mean,
Well,
could gonna
are we
learn.
getting in our own way? That's probably a better way to say it. Like, are we? Because I think humans do that. I think there's so many inbuilt skills and abilities and survival wisdom in our, for so many years gone by, that I think sometimes we get in our own way a lot. Whether we get in our
Yeah.
head too much, um, and I think sometimes a lot of it is getting out of your own way, which could be, hey, regardless of my good upbringing, I'm going to actually have to go out there and make it my own way, define my own destiny, define my own success. Work it out myself. You know,
Mhm.
um, you know, when getting in my way would be, you know what, I'm just going to kind of coast along with, what I've kind of had, and just I'm sure I'll be happy. It's like, no, no, no. You're going to start feeling that dissatisfaction, that unworthiness feeling that I haven't achieved anything, I haven't created anything, because I do believe, most beings on this earth were meant to be productive, productive to produce for their family, to produce for their own survival. And now we're talking about thrival, and the more productive you are, the better you feel. So yeah, I think I think there's definitely challenges with not having that as a youngster, having that beautiful upbringing. But I did have grandparents which allowed the space for me to kind of grow. And when you have a lost parent and you have like grandparents who just seem so incredibly grounded, and they weren't parents, so they weren't uh, really needing to discipline me, or they weren't really needing to. Uh, Sometimes parents can indoctrinate you in their way of things, or so. I think they were guiding me, and they were very involved in my life, and they were very connected. But I wanted to come to them, where a lot of times you see the kid doesn't want to come to the parents. The kid goes to someone else, sometimes a bad mentor in their life. So um, they created the space, they held the space. It was a safe space where I could come to them and communicate and just have a conversation, and it
Well,
was incredible.
yeah. And I think too, we have to, at least for me, I have to respect the child's journey, which is
Mm,
really, really hard. And I have to remember that I'm still learning and growing too. And that just because I see what I think is right for them doesn't mean that's what's right for them. And
yeah,
shifting that as a parent is
and that's in a lot
has
of
been,
relationships. That can
oh,
be in a lot of
it's
relationships.
so, oh, it could be in a date, yeah, not just a parent child relationship, but a child parent relationship. It could be in a husband wife, girlfriend boyfriend, oh, I know
Yeah.
better for
Business
you.
partnership. Yeah. It could
Business
be anywhere
partnership.
where you don't want to
Yeah.
see someone to make the wrong move, and then sometimes you can stifle their journey and stifle their growth. And then sometimes you do have to pull them aside and say, hey, listen, like, trust me, like, just trust me on this one, and it's that kind of, working out when do you pull that card. I heard something great. It was kind of like, um, it was something about like save your, like, yelling, save your yelling. If you're yelling all the time, the kid, and it was this great story. It was like, if you're yelling all the time, the kid could be crossing a road and a car could be coming, and then you could yell, and the kid just won't respond because that yelling has become the environment that is just normal. And that's the thing when people ask, like, when you've maybe come from a family or like a disruption, or like one of your parents, like we're talking about lost soul, you know, oh, how did, oh my God, how did that happen? How did it? It's just like, well, you just get used to it. And it's the kind of thing where, what I think I was talking about last, it was like talking about like load shedding and
Mm-hmm.
challenges in some countries. And then, one perspective is like, well, aren't we so lucky that we don't have that? But then the perspective I like to say is, well, no one should have that, and we shouldn't make sense of not having that because of the world that we live on, the abundance, the ability, the skills, the money that's held up, in different institutions. Like, we should not we should not accept that. And I think that's the same thing. Like, you get used to your environment. You get used to, okay, well, yep, we're doing, and I asked my granny, how long has it been? Oh, yeah, we've been doing it for 12 years, but just a little bit. It's kind of that trickle. Okay, just a little bit of load shedding. Okay, but yep, over years, it gets more and more and more. And you just get used to your environment. And that's where you see some of these atrocities, societies that have just kind of happened. And people go like, oh, how could that happen over there? And then egotistically, we go, oh, I never would have followed the regime. It's like, well, what if you had everyone around you and you had to protect your family? And if you didn't follow the regime, you ended up in a ditch, and so did your family. Like, I think, like, we're not realizing, like, or respecting what these people kind of went through. Like, so,
Yeah.
and you can see how these things happen because the environment slowly changes and starts buckling on itself. And so if you have an environment of mother always screaming, yeah, you're not going to respond to the screaming. If you have an environment of that sort of cruelty, you're going to try and find your survival ways. You're going to try and maybe hold yourself, close yourself off, or cut yourself off, and that's going to show up in health issues later. And that's what happened with me. But I guess to speak on your point, I think with having a parent that's a lost soul creates a certain environment, and you become used to that environment. And Bob Proctor talked about it, where your hereditary, your cells, everything, like, that you get through the line is going to affect you so much, but then your environment's going to affect you, and your vibration that you exist with. So whoever you're around and whatever vibration they're casting off in you is going to affect you hugely more than your hereditary. And I reckon it probably goes hereditary, your environment, and then your attitude that you decide to live life by.
Well, and I think that speaks to gene expression too, right? How the genes are there, but how are they going to express themselves?
Yeah.
And that also has to do with like heart brain coherence and good feelings like love, gratitude. That's, I think, why the gratitude practice is so
Yes.
important in so many, or I hear about it so much, gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Are you doing your gratitude list? You got your gratitude list, and I had this
That's
one
awesome.
one gal, oh, I wish I could remember her name. And she said she went after her gratitude as if it was awe and wonder. Like the ice
Wow.
cube. How, she would look at the ice cube just from a perspective of awe and wonder. And
Mm.
how is it that this isn't it beautiful that this ice cube exists? And
Yes.
I really love that because it helps me get into that place of, especially when things aren't going well or there's been bumps in the road, and there've been a couple of bumps in the road in the last year that really threw me off, and I had to go back to super basics, like
Mm.
just really really basic gratitude, making sure I'm getting up and doing my heart rhythm meditation. I'm going through some challenges now, so not only do I, I wake up and I immediately do my breathing, and then I go into another meditation, and then I get up and I meditate again, and then I'm finding myself meditating throughout the day just to manage things and to get myself back to regulation. It's a lot of work, and I'm dealing with something physical, and
Mm.
I think that's what it is that a lot of times healing, and not just the emotional, but also the physical, it takes a lot of work. And I think in today's world, it's like we want to blame, or be upset, or I think I said it well in the poem I wrote for today.
Good segue. Let's hear the poem.
Yeah, yeah. So it's called Lost Parent, and it says, sometimes the lost soul is your parent. And when this happens, you can try to protect yourself, living in contraction, no trust, cut off from the world, becoming lost yourself, suffering with them, not aware there is a choice. As children, though, you don't know that as you grow and learn, you are watching your parents grow and learn too. And at some point, as you grow, you learn that you are not your early life experiences. You are more. You stop living in the past with blame and accusations. You step courageously into now, choosing a new direction, finding the curiosity, finding the adventure, finding the flow, ultimately finding you. So I think it's easy with a lost soul as a parent to blame them when the reality is they were learning and growing too. I
That's the
can't
part I love the most of the poem. I love that part where you said that, and it's like, yeah, be
I
mindful
can't
that, yeah,
yeah, I can't blame them. They did the best they could with the tools they had, and I can either hang on to that in that contracted, angry, frustrated, dysregulated, really horrible vibration body, or I can forgive. And when I say forgive, I'm not saying forgive and forget. I'm saying forgive and learn, because forgiveness was never for them. It was for me. Just like a boundary is never for
mm,
anyone else, it's for me. So
wow,
I
that's
have to
great.
figure out, where am I going to be?
That's powerful.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, love that. And I think if it's for you and you're sorting out your boundaries, then it's going to be forever for whoever you love and care for in your life, because it's kind of that thing. Like, if you want to give back to the world, a lot of times we go out into the world and we go, okay, I'm barely okay up top. I'm struggling in all these different areas, and I want to go and give, all my goodness out in the world. And I think you have to give to yourself first. You really have to look after yourself, take care of yourself, build yourself up, make sure you're okay, and then you can give with confidence and knowledge and wisdom and strength, rather than giving and not being able to manage when you give. So I think it's
Yeah.
always important to take care of yourself, have yourself, like you said, have the boundaries for you, have the the forgiveness for you, have the growth for you, have that sorted, and then naturally you're going to go out, and it's not going to be as pushed. It's not going to be as pushy of a giving, or as pushy of. It's kind of like when, I mean, a great thing would probably be talking about like selling. When you're trying to sell something, or if you've worked in a sales job, things like that. When you believed in something, it just oozed out of you. The confidence. I mean, for me, I worked in a camera store quite a few years ago, and we had all these different cameras, and I was the one guy in the store that was shooting all the time, and I had clients and jobs, and so one of the awesome things that, very lucky, I asked the manager. I said, "Oh, can I try this bit of gear out? It'll help me with my knowledge and understanding and giving, to the clients. But can I try it out on this shoot?" So I try all the gear out, and I really loved Fujifilm, and Fujifilm were like the company that I was like, wow, the price like is really really good, the quality, durability, the color science is incredible. The lens range is awesome. You don't have to get a camera and then spend exorbitant amounts in lenses. I really love this equipment. So it got to the point where the head office over in Sydney were calling and saying, "What is with your shop? Like, your shop is selling, out of all of Australia, your shop is selling so much Fujifilm, and we just don't understand it." And what it was is that you'd get like different spivs and you'd get different things. So it'd be like, oh, like Sony and Canon always had like oh, if you sell this, you get this deal. If you sell that, you can get this kickback. And if you do this, you get these points for this trip. And so they were the best at marketing. Better than the other cameras, but then every month, like, you'd get different cameras that you'd get like money if you sold those cameras. And like I would sell cameras to people that, hey, look, I really want a Nikon, I really want this, I understand that, try and work out. But when I spoke to people and I asked them, well, what's the challenges with your current camera system? What have you not? Why did you switch from Nikon to Canon back to Nikon? Like, what are you looking for? And when I'd ask them questions and be genuinely interested in their problems and their struggles, their challenges, like, Fujifilm just became such a great solution. And because I was sharing it from my experience, like, hey, I did the Nikon, Canon, I did the same thing, but I just found this camera system just so incredible. It just naturally, I was sharing. I wasn't I wasn't selling and trying to be something that I wasn't, but I was sharing it passionately. And
Gosh, that almost goes to that self-awareness piece that's so important, that as we're learning and growing, having that self-awareness and having someone there to ask us those questions so we could even figure out what we want. Because like you were saying, these people were going back from Canon to Nikon and they couldn't figure it out. And then you were there to ask the questions and it was like, oh, well, this is why. That, because you're looking for this and that's not over there, that's over here. And then they're like, oh, well, okay, and then they were probably happy.
It's so true. I truly believe that we have such an incredible intelligence, and we come here with such incredible intelligence and information and resourcefulness. And I believe what we're doing here is remembering that intelligence and learning. And where you see people that are just, how the hell do they do that? How do they think? They're tapping into that. They're tapping into that.
Yeah.
And I think it's that sort of thing of I've got it within me, but how do I pull it out? Kind of like that clown with that napkin, that just that never-ending napkin
that keeps going forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that just popped into my mind too, though, is that at least my experience has been that sometimes people with parents that have been lost souls and things like that are less likely to be willing to have their beliefs challenged. Or when there's feedback, there's this reactivity because they're already there. They're already in that behavior and in that anger and that frustration. So now if I go to check on a belief and I really want to just understand, like, as soon as they start seeing the holes in their belief, they get angry. And I have to go back and really build rapport again after that. Like, that's my sign of, okay, they need to know that it's safe to talk about this. And what do I need to do? Because I don't want to it's not about them being wrong. Because here's the thing. In every belief, there are holes. Every single one, there's a hole. There's guaranteed things that we have not thought about. And it's also like that saying, everything is perfect and there's room for improvement. So for me, it just helps me. Sometimes it just helps me to know where the holes are in my belief. And then I can say, yeah, and I still believe. Thank you. I appreciate it. And this is where my line is right now. That doesn't mean I'm not open to new information. Let's see. Somebody said, it says Facebook users. So they may not have. I've always found that I have to assess the need for first and then the method second. I try to tend to listen twice as much as I talk. 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Brilliant. Good strategy. I love what you're saying there, though, Angela, when you were, and thank you for that comment. That's awesome. Um, yeah, when you're mentioning that, I think it's continue for a second because I was just about to connect something.
I think I was talking about so the belief system and getting through the belief system and really having to build
Oh,
rapport
yes.
again, and talking about that there are holes in everything and perfection. Then I went into perfection and, you know,
Isn't that
room for
like,
improvement.
but isn't that it's like something so beautiful of you believing in yourself? Because when you believe in yourself and you believe in your plan and your destiny and what you've chosen, not everyone's going to get on the same page as you, and you got to understand that not everyone's going to buy into it as you. Not everyone's going to like the personal growth coach or training or education that you're seeking out or the method you're going about it. Not everyone's going to be on the same. Not gonna they're gonna poke holes in your belief. Like when you talked about holes
Yeah.
in the belief, they're gonna poke holes into your belief, and sometimes, sorry,
It's okay.
sometimes
Surprise.
surprise! Hey, Halloween. We need some confetti. um, like people will poke holes in your belief, and sometimes just their doubt. Like you can have, you talk. I think we've talked about before. Like you get people that kind of are haters, and they can like sometimes like fire you up more. But you get people that are like people that are just close to you and just doubt you slightly or cast some of their doubt and we talked about that as a parent's love and like or even a parent that is a lost soul, you know like they're doubting that, like it's like, can you just trust me, can you trust that, like, yes, maybe in my past experience it doesn't quite look like I've got it together or I haven't made all the right decisions, but can you just trust me on this one thing? I truly believe in it. This is my little baby, this is my little creation that's going to take me to, this is my cosmic goal. It's going to take me to that next level where I'm going to be at a greater level of abundance and growth and responsibility and maturity and give more to my family and all that. Can you just trust me? And that's the thing, because just a bit of doubt from people that are closest to you can really poke holes into your belief and wear away at you. And it's, some people talk about keeping your goals secret. And I get that. I understand that perspective, because a lot of times when you share it with people, you need to be ready for their response. And their response could just be something as simple as, like, oh, you're going for that, are you? Or, oh, you think you can do that, do you? Or, do you think you're better? And I think I've talked about it before with tall poppy syndrome in Australia, in this country, and
Yeah.
things like that, and not necessarily cheerleading you on. And so I understand why to keep your goals secret. I prefer to put them out there and hold myself to them. But it takes a lot of strength, because people will poke holes in your belief. You'll poke holes, like you'll poke holes in your own belief of, can I do it? And that's something to be truly aware of. And I think that's, with family and parents and things like that, you know, they can make you into a lost soul, because you now, oh my God, I've been going along this for so long, but now do I really believe in it? Because now there's so many holes. There's that belief is leaking. That belief is literally leaking.
Yeah. And our Facebook user said, "You know yourself better than anyone else. Doubt by others is lack of knowledge of you," which I think goes back to
Yeah.
that self-awareness. And I love that you talk about sharing the goal, and that we're even talking about like those beliefs and things like that. It's actually helpful to know where those holes are. Now, when I was younger and still lost in many ways, which I think has to happen just because it's it's life, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
um, if somebody would have poked holes, I wouldn't have been able to say, "Oh yeah, well yeah, that is true. That might happen, and that would suck, and I'm still going this way." I
Yeah.
don't know that I would have had that confidence to be able to say
Yes.
that at that point, and or I would have felt safe enough. Remember, if we're talking about people who are coming from that dysregulated anger, frustration, low vibration type situation, then it's going to be hard making this shift and starting to get used to getting that feedback and being okay and knowing that like other than what I'm thinking and believing right now, when they told me that, am I okay? Yeah, I'm okay. It's just now I've got this thinking and believing thing. And is that true? Do I have to believe what they said? Now, as soon as I start believing what they said, if it's a hole in my thing, what my goal or whatever, or it's a
Yeah.
downside, and I start buying into it, then I'm going to get in trouble. Is it important for me to be aware that that's a possibility? Sure. Why not? It's probably helpful so that I have some idea on which way I want to go, but
Mm.
I don't have to lay all of my belief back into how they're seeing the world, because the other thing too is when someone's giving me feedback, it is from their perspective,
Mm.
their life
Their
experience,
reality.
their reality. Yeah. So they they might be scared of my risk.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot the people that love you the actually, I think I was writing like, a journal every now and then, and or actually probably I journal on a daily basis really. Um, but just writing like notes down or things that are in my mind, or things I'm thinking of. I just wrote like, the people that love you the most more than oftentimes can be the people that hold you back the most.
Mhm,
And sometimes if you want to keep the peace, you need to work out like when it's like, when you need to call it out, when you need to confront it, when you need to communicate about it, when maybe, okay, I'll let you kind of communicate that, but I'm still, like you said, I'm still going for this. I'm still going. I think
mhm.
Robert Downey Jr. had a comment like that, something like that. You know, smile and laugh, like when they doubt you, or they whatever, and then do it anyway. And I think that's the kind of that is a lot of people that are excuse me.
Bless you.
Suspense. That's a lot of people that are remarkably successful, have achieved a lot, or have somehow come through a lot. Is they said, well, I don't care what I like. Maybe I care, but I'm not buying into what you're telling me, what my environment's telling me, what the history's telling me, what all these different pieces of data are telling me can be possible. I'm buying into my belief of some sort of magic within me, something deep down that is telling me I can bring this creation to life, that I can actually bring this out, that I can do something with this. And that's
Yeah.
this
Well,
kind
and
of dissonance, or yeah, detachment to people's, yeah.
I was just gonna say, it reminded me of somebody said once to me, there's a sticky note. There's always a sticky note where you didn't listen to God, was what they said.
I
The
love
saying, like
that. That's brilliant.
think of the times in your life when you
Wow.
didn't listen to that calling or that purpose or whatever it was. And man, I bet the people watching and even you and me right now are like, oh yep, that was that time, that was that time, that was
Oh, the list is too long. Like, oh, jeez. It's like
you
that
know
scene in Harry Potter, with all those letters coming through the chimney. All these sticky notes just flying and hitting you in the face.
Yeah, and so I think my goal now is to really to have a clean page. Thank you
Yeah.
for this, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take that risk and I'm going to learn and grow, because maybe that's the way I have to go. And, for me with my kids, I'm going to trust that what they're telling me is right for them. And, if they ask for my opinion, I do actually try not to give them too much of an opinion unless they're really like, I want to know what you think. And then I will
Yes.
tell them, but it doesn't always they still don't always like it, which is fine, but
Yeah.
because it's not my life. And I think sometimes we forget that too, that we are all individual humans on this earth doing our best, and we're all here to learn and grow. I told this story earlier this week, I think with Kat, or maybe it was somebody else. Anyway, the bottom line is, I met a gal that was 70 years old, came in to help me as a caregiver. And she had a cane, she couldn't walk. So, my schedule changed that day. There were some surprises, but we got to have some conversations. And what I realized in that moment was she was learning and growing too. And I realized I am going to be learning and growing forever. Becky
Yes.
says hi.
Hey, Becky.
Wave to mom. Wave to mom.
Hey, mom.
But the learning and growing happens forever. And so do I want to do that and find joy? Do I want to take these risks or do I want to hold myself back and think maybe I'm not worthy? And I think I'm worthy. I think you're worthy. I think the people watching are worthy. And is it scary when shifting? Like if you're shifting out of those dysregulating emotions, it can be really scary. And I have a story actually about that from I was hanging out with someone. We were having a lot of fun. There was joy, love, and all of a sudden they flipped into panic mode. And I was like, thank goodness I knew what was happening because sometimes that happens. People are, and this goes back to what we've been talking about most of the show is someone sometimes will be so dysregulated that they're so used to it that when they start feeling these good feelings, they inadvertently have to go back. So, what I want to say to everyone listening and to anyone taking the steps to to change their life, it will feel awkward and weird and it won't be comfortable. Those feelings will feel good. And then the next thought that pops in will probably be, well, when is the other shoe going to drop? Or go into full on panic mode like the person did this morning. Uh,
Mm.
um, like that's what a perfect day for that to have happened for me to be able to recall
Yeah.
it talking
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And we do have another comment here from our
Oh,
Facebook user.
coming
It
in.
says there, I know, that's awesome. There are a great many inventions that wouldn't have seen the light of day without the inventor's persistence. Definitely.
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely 100%. 100%. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, what the light bulb, right? 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just
Yes.
have to keep going.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And 1,000 different ways, a
Yeah.
1,000 different methods, just
Yeah.
like, just think of that. Like every new way is a new method. So when we're looking for things and we get stuck on things or like when we're too hard on ourselves and like I believe on, hey, like, hey, I know I'm better than this. I can do better. Or, hey, no, I know that I can communicate better. And I think that's essential to continually be working on yourself, and that's your appreciation of other beings in humanity. That you want to keep showing up better and better and better, regardless of the environment, regardless of what's holding you back, regardless of your mind. You want to work through all those things and show up better and better. But I think it's also important realizing, Thomas Jefferson, how many methods he tried. Like you're going to have to try quite a few methods in life and be okay with that, you know. And I think
Yeah.
that's where that awareness you spoke about is great, where you can say, "Wow, look, I really freaked out, or I panicked there, or I kind of, you know, I kind of lost my shit there, you know." But like coming back and just saying, like, "Thank you for your patience, thank you for holding that space." These are the things that I'm kind of working through and share. And I think that's the thing. A lot of times we don't share, and it's an interesting thing that I was thinking about just recently. Like sometimes it's better to share and communicate and ask what the other person thinks than announce. And I think in our modern world, in the last few years, you know, we've had it a lot from politicians. It's been announcement, announcement, announcement. And I think that's what maybe humans like. We're just like we're mirroring what we've got in our environment. The people on the screen, they announce their opinion, announce their opinion, announce their opinion. Opinion makers announcing their opinion. And so it's like now, okay, so now what do we do out in humanity with other beings? We just announce our opinion. And that's what I've noticed. If I can say, communicating to people many years ago and communicating to people now, I felt like there was more conversation in terms of, and look, there's plenty of conversation now. There's more podcasts. But I mean, I felt like when you were communicating with people, there was like a to and fro or like a discussion or a back and forth. Where now,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people they're coming with all of their stuff and they just announce it to you,
Mm.
and maybe if you're a bit more of a calmer person, or they see you with a bit more of a relaxed tone, or a bit more, um, yeah, like you don't have to have the limelight the whole time, then they go, great, like this is a perfect time for me to announce. Um, and I just think it's important to get into conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Thanks, Becky.
Yeah. Becky says I agree. Yeah,
Thanks. Thanks, Angela's mom.
yeah, yeah. Thanks. I think it is important to have those conversations, and also though remaining calm inside with those conversations and recognizing it's okay if my belief is starting to get shattered or a question is asked, that doesn't mean that I'm not loved.
Mm.
I'm trying to think of what homework could be since we're at 5 minutes
Yes.
till.
Good question. Yeah.
I is it will it be try to have a conversation and just ask questions? Would it be try and be uncomfortable this week? I don't know.
There's a
Would it be
great,
forgive? I don't know.
well, I think something that maybe summarizes those three things, and let me know if it's like you feel the same with this, but there's a great quote that I heard somewhere, and it was, see what you can learn from the person you hate most on this planet. Like see where you can
Oh, I
learn.
love that.
Yeah, and it's like I remember seeing that. I'm like, wow, that is powerful. That makes you,
Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna spill some beans here. I'm
yes.
or tea. No, the saying in America right now is tea. I'm gonna spill some tea here.
Oh, you guys have gone English, have you?
I guess. um, it is your my let's see, how do I want to say this? Hate is not the opposite of love.
Ooh,
And 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 I'm gonna say that in that you're never closer to someone that you love than when you hate them. Because what are you doing when you're hating them?
you're focusing on them with everything of you.
All of the negative parts. It's just not it's like
Yeah.
all the regulated, loving parts and not just the, yeah, it's not the love. And so
So you're
the
saying they're closer?
opposite. Yeah, I think so, maybe in some ways, like in
Yeah.
a really
Okay.
dysregulated way. So I think
Yeah.
the opposite of love and hate is actually indifference. But I'll tell you what, something
Mm,
really,
yeah.
really special happens. I had this lesson many years ago. I was in the midst of a huge, huge struggle, and I go to I go to church and I'm LDS. I went to the temple
Yeah.
and I'm praying for love for this person, and I'm praying
Wow.
for forgiveness. It was the best feeling in the world when I shifted out of that dysregulation, because then what happened was it allowed me to open up to love, to really see what was needed. It was no longer the fight between me and that person. It was what's needed in the situation, and what
Yeah.
do I need to keep doing to stay true to myself and to God.
Yeah.
And it was a huge eye opener. So I love the idea of see what you can learn from the person you hate.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so yeah. So after that experience, I when I get frustrated with somebody now, I go into meditation and I really focus on sending them love. I
Yeah.
imagine putting them in front of me and I imagine loving them because we're all made from love and trying
Can
to
I add
better
one thing to that?
understand. Yeah.
Can I add one thing to that practice?
Yeah.
Focus on sending and receiving. Like a
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
an exchange. Like I send you love and I receive, and an exchange.
Ooh, yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I probably did that. I don't. Did I? That's fantastic. I'm gonna have to go ponder. Did I do that? I think I did because what happened was I ended up having with the person I was in that particular the most recent struggle with that I was doing that. It
Yeah.
actually opened me up, and I was able to figure out and go back and say, okay, this is what was happening. and I actually
Yes.
better understood what they needed, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what was going on," you know,
Yes.
but I could go from peace instead of frustration. So are we
Yeah.
gonna challenge people to so it's gonna what was yours? It was, learn something from someone you hate, right?
Well, yeah, I'd say write down something that you can learn, because we can learn something from everyone and everything, and there's qualities and skills and aspects to some of the nastiest figures in the world. And I'm not saying become indoctrinated in their teachings and ways, but just learning something from them that like is an attribute. So like, what can I take away? Because when you
Yeah,
want to learn from philosophy, when you want to learn, you want to take something away that's going to be better in your life. So what can I
right.
learn? So which is kind of going, all right, let me just remove the emotion of like I hate, because like you said, hate and love are a lot close. And when you're hating that person, when you're commenting and when you're saying, oh, this person's a nasty so and so, you're sending them your focus, you're sending them your energy, you're sending them your investment that could be actually rather spent on, hey, how's my family doing? How are the people I love doing? How are the people in my circle doing? How am I doing? You're sending all that crap. So if you just focus, one of the ways that you can become indifferent to them
Mhm.
is if you say, okay, what can I learn from this person? And then it challenges you to see, oh my God, I was in such a huff about that person, but this is something interesting that they do. Oh, they're a great marketer. Oh, they cause me to hate them so much. So they're obviously doing something right with whatever they're doing, like, so they're causing a reaction. I like that they cause reactions, like, or, I like that they know how to create, a moment, whatever it is, but finding it. And it's a challenging thing for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, and it doesn't have to be maybe someone that you hate. It could be, someone that you despise, or really like don't like, and you can change it how you like it. That could be one. And then the other thing could be, um send do a prayer or a meditation,
yeah,
receiving love and sending love to maybe people on this planet where maybe you're cut off from. Maybe they are a lost soul. Maybe there is no no love lost there, like, just doing a meditation and sending and receiving, I think, is it could be homework number two, if I have to do
yeah,
two. Yeah.
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 I love that. I love it. And then let's see, mom said what you could take away is something you learn about yourself.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely.
She
And when you
sees
ask
right
that
through our
question,
tricks here. No.
well, yeah, yeah, and that's a very diplomatic approach. I like it. That's good, Becky. Well, one of the ways that I think what happens when you ask yourself, "What can I learn from someone that I despise or don't like?" is what can I take away from myself? Like, oh, and then
Yeah.
you can actually start learning, why do I despise that person? And then maybe you can ask, okay, why have I commented on their last 10 posts how much I dislike them? Like, that could be something you
Or
learn
what
about
is
yourself.
it? Something it's usually triggering something inside of me that I
Yeah.
don't like, but we are
Yeah,
over time,
that's a good
so
that's a good point. That's a good point. And when you act out, it's usually because you're acting out because you already know there's an area that you need to work on. Like when you're acting, why are you acting like this? Like, I just said this, and you came with all this energy and all this. Ah, wait a minute. You know that you should be doing that, or you know that you haven't spent attention, or you haven't been ethically sound in this area, and that's when you
yeah,
realize, oh, yeah. Thanks, Becky.
yeah.
We could keep
That's
going, but
right,
I
yeah.
think, yeah,
Yep,
the hour
I
mark.
think we're done. Okay,
Well
how were
done.
we ending the show now? We were saying, "I'm Angela,"
I'm Carl, and
and
we
this
are
the
this the two
and
P's.
Okay, okay, and this is the
The
destiny
destiny
of
of
your
your
soul.
soul.
We got it.
Awesome. We got it.
Peace
Well
out.
done. Ciao.
Bye.